Okay, we're into the hand shaping phase of this thing. There are people who can do this type of, what you're about to see, the neck from here on down, they can do it on a French wheel. And that's a highly developed skill set. I don't recommend you go there. If you're a pipe maker and you can creatively adapt to how things emerge, as opposed to try to do replicas, a French wheel would be more suitable. If a half a millimeter makes a lot of difference when you're copying something, in which case you have much better shaping control using hand tools. So anyhow, we've got this line here on the side that we keep track of the center line, and it's based off of the partial slot that's been cut, and that keeps everything square. We've got plenty of room to push this shoulder back. I haven't marked it yet because it doesn't matter, but this entire thing, again, we're going to shrink it a click at a time in all dimensions. And I've got a model to use for a button on this thing, and I've double checked the length, and we're looking good. It's mostly just a matter of shrinking it down to this. And it gets pretty tedious to watch this sort of thing for any prolonged period of time. So I'll just do my usual and begin a step or a process with the tools with a kind of a stream of consciousness commentary until both of us get bored, and then I'll turn off the camera and move on to the next step. So what you're about to see, the first thing you want to do, by the way, the sequence of events here, you're much better off getting this thin first, because adjusting width on a thinner piece of material is far easier than the opposite. If you were to get this exactly the right width this way, and then your shaping would be a ridiculously difficult thing to maintain a straight edge when you're trying to round things over and morph them into a shape like that. So definitely go for thin followed by width. And the main tools I'm going to use are a double-aught cut Swiss file called a pillar file. It's got smooth edges and rough flats, and that's so that when it bumps up against something like this, it doesn't sand file the button away. And for this area through here is a pillar file, and it's shaped kind of like an airplane wing or a teardrop in cross section. And this is as rough as they make these small ones, which is a single aught. And you'll see me do kind of a 45-degree type of stroke with this, and it depends on where you're actually working, but it's a combination of sort of a 45-degree scrubbing motion. Now that looks like I'm going end to end, but if you were looking straight down, you'd see that's actually a 45-degree stroke, that's going straight end to end. So anyway, I'll just get started and record a little of it, and then we'll go to the next step. Now you can lean into this all you want at this point, because there's no chance of screwing something up as far as cutting into the airway or what have you. You've got the tape on the sides that lets you know when you're getting toward the center. And you want a gentle radius here, not arched. That's not comfortable in your mouth, but neither is flat actually, and there's a kind of a range of standard or acceptable radius that's used on pipe stems where the majority of people like the feel of it. All of it's irrelevant in this case because you're copying what somebody else did, but I'm just letting you know that I would take it down in a radius the entire distance rather than just crank on it and then try to radius it at the last. Again, we're doing the shrink it a click at a time approach. Oh yeah, I would not attempt, I mean, you're welcome to try, but I wouldn't recommend or think it would probably work very well. The Dremel type thing, if you got one of these sanding drums and tried to reduce it that way, they're really good for certain things like this sloped area, and they're hideously bad when you're trying to follow a straight line. So yeah, you can give it a whirl, but it would be, you'd spend more time recovering from the waviness and lumps that you put in there than you'd save by doing it quickly in the beginning, and then you come back and try to save your shape. I'd rather just shrink it from the get-go, evenly all over. Okay, we're not going blazingly fast, but it's not as tedious as it looks. If you've got a block with a little saddle that you can rest the work in, and you can actually use a fair amount of pressure and cut through this stuff faster than most people would think. So, again, just commenting as things occur to me here. Okay, I'm keeping track of the time and like to keep these videos in approximately equal chunks for ease of navigation on the internet. So I'll shut it off for the moment and continue doing what I'm doing until I'm ready to shift into a new gear, and then restart the camera, explain what I'm doing, and we'll just keep doing it like that till we're done. Alrighty then. Okay, back again for a slight addendum. It occurred to me as I was cutting through this that there's going to be a fair number of people that will suspect that I'm holding back on them, that I actually have some tool off camera that lets me do this kind of removal, because they get a file out and she no work, and they'll say they would take me 10 hours or 15 hours to do that. he must have something else going on. So I thought I would show you it actually in process and explain why I think there's some confusion regarding files out in the world. So let me just do this for a minute, and you see how much material's flying off, and then I'll tell you what the 2 secrets are to making this happen. Well, there's several more than that, but you get the idea. Okay, you get the idea. Here's what's happening or not happening in the case of the people who try files and say it doesn't work, can't make it work rather. And I've already said that you need to have a block to press against, because the pressure being applied here is far more than people would guess. You tend to think of files as like fingernail, you know, when women get their fingernails done and stuff. Oh no, you can bear down on them. The other 2 things, if you use a file like this one, this Pippin file, the contact area is very narrow. It's curved. Now you cannot take off a lot of, you need straight files, flat files for certain things, but they are woefully inefficient at removing mass quantities because they distribute the pressure over such a wide area that you're really not digging much. So the shape has it's the single most important thing. And the other one is they're top quality files. These are not hardware store stuff. They're Velourbe, I believe is the name. Grobe, Velourbe. I guess the 2 companies merged. And they're quite a different animal than you get at an Ace hardware store. They stay sharp, they come sharp as, they're frighteningly sharp, and when you get them and they stay that way for a good long time, you can resharpen them with vinegar. Look it up, sounds crazy, it's true. But between the pressure, because it's on a block, the fact that only a 1 millimeter wide area is actually in contact, it makes for an enormous pressure per square inch on what's cutting, and the fact that the teeth are razor sharp, and you can just waltz through hard rubber like there isn't much to it. So anyway, I thought that was worth mentioning, because people that would sit down and try this and say, I don't know what he's doing, but there's something more going on than what he says. He must shut the camera off and pull out his secret weapon. Nope, that's not the case. It's exactly as described. So I thought it was worth specifically mentioning it. Okay then.